and welcome back to another episode of the Lazy Hypnotherapist. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Lily. I am a certified hypnotherapist and a trainer of Conversational Hypnosis, where I teach other therapists and practitioners my unique approach to hypnotherapy that has really been a game changer for my business and, of course, my client results. Thank you again for joining. I'm so sorry about last week. I recorded a whole episode about childhood conditioning, the subconscious mind, limiting beliefs, and this old thing, my microphone was it was on red. So it wasn't charged, it didn't work. And there we go. And I was going to force myself to record it again, but I was like, no, let's just have the week off. It's fine. And we'll come back again this week. And I'm going to record on a completely different topic, as you would have seen in the title, because I don't know, I kind of feel like I gave that one my best go, and now I'm all out of it. So we'll circle back to the childhood episode, because I do believe that it is one of the most important topics when it comes to therapy in any modality. So we definitely will do that. Maybe we'll do it next week. But I thought this is something that is coming up a lot lately in session. Actually, a lot, honestly, since I started my business. That is ROCD, relationship OCD. And I think it's such a prevalent one, but it's also one that I do not believe is spoken about enough. So I thought we would dive into that today. And I'm really excited to talk about it because there's so much to it. And I really just want to alleviate any shame that is around it, because it's certainly not necessary, but I know that it is there for a lot of people. So we will get into that. But I just wanted to do a quick little PSA to anybody that is wanting to do my Master Conversational Hypnosis course. As you would know, we do live trainings roughly every 12 weeks. You can sign up whenever and start learning through the online recorded trainings, but we do have these live trainings, and we have one coming up at the end of the month. So I thought I would put it in this episode just so you have enough time to decide if you want to do it. So the training will be held on the 29th and the 30th of August. On the 29th, that's a Friday, it will run from 6 till 9 p.m. just over Zoom. And on the 30th, the second half of the training will be from 8 a.m. till around 1 p.m. The trainings are so fun. So they are really interactive. We do a lot of learning, but we really more do a lot of demos and practicals. So we learn by doing. And I truly think when it comes to conversational hypnosis, you learn the best by just getting in, having a crack. And, it's such an open space. Everyone's just learning, and it's a really supportive space as well. So I think if you are interested, the live recordings are the best place to start, and it just it's really fun, and everyone is so lovely. We have not just hypnotherapists, actually majority is not hypnotherapists. We have kinesiologists, counselors, therapists, we have nutritionists, dietitians. It's such a diverse space, and it's just really other practitioners that are wanting to add something else into their practice, and that's really going to help them, enjoy their practice a bit more, get some faster, deeper results. If you are interested, come along. You can sign up by the link in the description, but you can also just DM me whenever. If you have any questions, you're interested, but you're not quite sure, DM me. We can even just pop on a call and have a chat. That is enough plugging of my course. Let's get into today's episode. So I'll call it ROCD for the remainder of the podcast episode because that's what it typically goes by. If you are in the world of mental health, you will know ROCD straight away. It is a subtype of OCD. It can exist among other types of OCD, or it can stand alone as the only form of OCD that you have. I think that is something that often makes people question whether or not they have it or whether or not they're struggling enough, is that they don't have any other forms of OCD, so maybe they're just, clingy or crazy or whatever it is. And that is kind of the first point that I actually want to make, is that so many people label the characteristics of ROCD as clingy or needy or desperate or insecure. There are so many things that stop people from actually seeking help and trying to get better. And I hate that so much. There is so much stigma when it comes to OCD, so many stereotypes, so many misconceptions that are absolutely hindering this space. It is such a shame. People will just offhandedly say the remark, "Oh, I'm so OCD," because they like a bit of cleanliness, or "I'm so OCD" because they like things organized a certain way. It's like, if that's not distressing for you, you don't have OCD. You're just clean, or you just like things organized. They're not the same thing. They can be OCD, but only if there's a bunch of other stuff that comes with it, like distress, like compulsions, like the consuming nature of it. And I think as a society, as a collective, this is something that we need to really take seriously, because I know it seems just easy to say as an offhanded comment, "I'm so OCD," or it's easy to not pull up someone when they do say that. But when we really kind of get into it, those kinds of comments have done a couple of things. One, stop people from actually seeking help because they don't know what OCD is. But also they kind of diminish the real exhaustion and mental load and the massive impact that OCD can have, just by saying that it can sort of happen to anyone, or everyone has a bit of OCD, or whatever it is. It's silly, and it's a little bit uneducated. And I always think, when you know better, you do better. So if you know what OCD is and you know the real nature of it, yet you continue to say, "Oh, I'm so OCD," you're part of the problem. But if you don't know and now you know, then that's where change can happen, right? When you know better, you do better. And OCD, it can come up in so many different ways. There are so many subtypes of it. Cleanliness and organization, that is one aspect of it. But as I said, it has to come with the distressing nature of it, of you need to do this. Otherwise you won't be able to function. So there are other subtypes. I won't go into all of them, but a lot of superstition is involved. So I have to do this thing, otherwise something bad will happen. There's harm OCD, where you worry about what you might do to yourself. There's intrusive thoughts, where you will have what we call ego-dystonic thoughts, and they can be incredibly distressing, because ego-dystonic means they go against every fiber of who you are, and they can really make you question and doubt yourself. Some really, really distressing subtypes of OCD, and ROCD is just one of them. So I myself have OCD, and if you're watching me on YouTube, you'll see that I just smiled when I said that. I think that's probably a part of vulnerability is making light of it, but also I'm at a really, really good place with it. But like so many people, I had OCD from a very young age, and I would have to do little rituals and things, and I would think if I didn't do them, something bad would happen to my family. And because I truly believe, because of the misconceptions about OCD, I and my family at the time had no idea what it was. We just thought like, these are just Lily's little habits that she does. And I would never, ever have told my family, oh, I have to do this stuff, or I feel like something bad will happen to you, because I thought I was insane. I thought there was something like deeply, deeply wrong with me. So they just thought I had these little habits that I did, and then my family's incredibly accepting, so they just accepted that I did these things. But I didn't tell them the distressing nature of it. I left the most critical part out, which a lot of people do, because it can make you feel crazy and like there's something wrong with you. And I didn't have a simple explanation of, oh, you have OCD, because that really would have helped a lot. But as I said, because of the misconceptions that are out there, it just wasn't available at the time. Now we're at a place in our society where we do know so much more about mental health in general, and we do know so much more about OCD, and therefore there's so much that we can do. But ROCD, as I said, it can exist alone. So for me, my OCD started off as like rituals with superstitions behind them. And then it sort of dipped in and out of different areas throughout my life. And this is what happens to a lot of people with OCD. It will start out as one subtype, then it will dip into another, then it will dip into another. For me, at one point, it did dip into ROCD. Again, I had no idea what that was about. But for a lot of people, it's just ROCD, and no other forms of OCD have ever been present within their life. That's totally a thing, totally normal. If that's you, that's a thing, essentially. ROCD is basically where you have obsessions and compulsions and intrusive thoughts when it comes to your relationship. So why I said at the start you can feel like you're clingy or like you're needy or like you're desperate is because a lot of the thoughts can either be sort of like centered towards you or centered towards your partner. So it can feel like lots and lots of thoughts of doubt of, is this the right relationship? Is this the right person? Do I love them? Am I in love with them? Do I want to be with them long term? All sorts of thoughts. Also, then it can be, a big part of that is also, do they love me? Am I going to be left? Am I going to be abandoned? When are they going to leave me? And that can lead to a lot of reassurance seeking. And essentially, all you want is to feel sure and to feel certain. And you have all of these doubts around the relationship. There can even be intrusive thoughts such as, did I cheat on them and I've forgotten about it? Did I go out one night, get really drunk and cheat on them? And, your brain, you will come up with all of these different ideas as to basically how this relationship is wrong. And it does that for a couple of reasons. So what we know with OCD, just like what we know with anxiety, is that it is a coping mechanism. And it's a coping mechanism that you can be born with. It can come up out of trauma. It can come up out of really sudden life changes when you're younger that basically bring up a fear within you of uncertainty, of being out of control, of suddenness, of so attachment styles obviously can come into it, particularly when it comes to relationship OCD, anxious attachment that can come through just a normal upbringing, or it can come through trauma. There's a lot of different ways that OCD can start, but essentially it comes up as a coping skill. No coping skill ever starts to be a problem or to ruin your life or to do anything bad. It comes up to help and to solve a problem. So a lot of the time, the problem that the OCD is trying to solve is to have you in the driver's seat, to put you into control, to make you doubt so much so that you go into overdrive and trying to think of every possible way in which you can problem solve this and get to a place essentially where you're certain. Because that's what it's craving, that feeling of solidness, of reassurance. And this is where reassurance comes in a lot, is that oftentimes people that are struggling with ROCD will seek a lot of reassurance. So maybe it would be asking your family, do you think so-and-so is right for me? Do you think that they're a good partner? Did I cheat on them that night? Or, it's asking them straight up, do you love me? Do you want to be with me forever? All these types of questions that is basically seeking reassurance. And I always think of reassurance when it comes to ROCD as like a drug. It's like you crave it, you need it. Then you get it, and it's like it soothes your soul. And it feels like for a moment, the ROCD is gone. It's like, oh my God, that reassurance just cured my ROCD. Wow, I'm all good. I'm never gonna need reassurance ever again. This feels amazing. And then, just like a drug, the reassurance wears off. And sooner or later, you need it again. And it goes through that cycle. It's like it soothes your soul. It's like a soothing balm, but then it wears off and you need it again. So whilst the reassurance always feels like it helps, it's actually the thing that is perpetuating this cycle and just keeping it going on. So when you are in a relationship and you have ROCD, it can feel like you are crazy or you're just really like anxious. You are, but it feels like, oh, I'm just anxious. Like this is just something that's wrong with me, or I'm crazy, or I'm desperate, or I'm a stage 5 clinger. And maybe you've even been labeled that before, particularly if you haven't been with a loving, supportive partner. You can feel that way. What I just want to say is that, yes, of course, there are people out there that are just clingy and are just, desperate for love or whatever it is. But also that comes out of insecurities in and of itself. But there is a good chance that if you are struggling with these things that I've said, perhaps you have ROCD. And what I want to tell you is that, my goodness, there is so much we can do here. There's so much light at the end of the tunnel, and I know you can get through this. And the way that I help my clients, so there's a bunch of different approaches to obsessive compulsive disorder in general, and ROCD. There's a bunch of different types. Some people will go for CBT. Some people will go for ERP, which is exposure response therapy. That is the most studied form of, I suppose, behavioral change when it comes to OCD. That is really studied. It has a lot of research behind it. And I definitely always recommend to my clients doing what we do in conjunction with some exposure therapy, because we need to be, when it comes to OCD, we need to be safely, in a strategic way, exposing yourself to the triggers. But what they typically do is they would do it basically on a hierarchy. So they would choose the easiest triggers to start with and build your way up to the hardest ones. So for a lot of people, that will basically eventually get to, not asking for reassurance, not doing these things that typically soothe or perpetuate the cycle of the ROCD. So exposure and response therapy is really fantastic. But what we do, and how within my approach to hypnotherapy, how I help my clients, is a couple different ways. What I really, really want my clients to understand is, firstly, exactly what the ROCD actually is. Or if my client also suffers from multiple different types of OCD, because that is a thing, I want them to understand exactly what that is, which is a coping skill. It is a skill, when I say that, hesitantly, because it's not all that effective, but it is a coping skill that started out as a solution. So I firstly want to change their approach to it. Instead of approaching it as something that is trying to ruin their life, I want them to approach it from, okay, this thing's trying to help me. Why did it decide that this was the way to help me? And when did it decide that this was the way to help me? And what does it feel like I need this help and safety from? So I know that's a lot there, but basically I want them to understand the inner workings of their subconscious mind as to how and what is driving this OCD, because something is like pushing the cart along. Something is driving it, motivating it, and keeping it stuck. So what's going on here? And I really want them to understand that for themselves. When we understand ourselves on this really deep level, what is causing what we're struggling with, what specifically to us is the belief, the feelings, the fears that is driving this, then we can attack it from a place of, okay, now we know what we're dealing with. We don't want to be band-aiding anything. We don't just want to be working with the symptoms, right? And we don't want to just be working on that sort of conscious logical level, because if that would work, I could say to someone with ROCD, don't worry, they love you. And that would work. And it would be like, oh, great. Because consciously, logically, that's the answer, right? Don't worry. But that's never going to work, because on a deeper level, there is a fear there. There's a belief there. So we need to be working with that. Otherwise, we're not going to get any change. So when it comes to then working with that, well, what we're working with is the real issue. So I really have the aim of rewiring this part of them, this OCD part, this protective part, to reframe the fear and to kind of upgrade it. Because I always think of OCD, anxiety as like a coping skill that really worked for a time, but it's just past its expiry date and we just need a new batch. So to have this part of them really understand that it's no longer needed. There's new ways of doing things. There's new ways of feeling safe. And we want to bring in new ways of feeling safe, new safety feelings. And that comes through new perceptions of the old coping skill. It comes through understanding where they're at now and what would actually help them now. It comes through strategies and tools of ways to make them feel safe. But we need to be doing this from that subconscious state. Otherwise, nothing's sinking in. So we need to be, through conversation, creating these moments where that subconscious mind is more receptive for us to be able to work within that state, but to be able to make things sink in. And once this awareness of what this OCD is doing, what it's trying to do there, why, what's driving it, from that awareness within that state, so much change already happens, because when it comes up, the client knows what's going on. It knows, they know. They know, that's that OCD that's trying to protect me from this, and it's doing it because of this, and it's doing it in this way. So I know that that's what that is. It's not real. It's not actually the relationship that's wrong. It's not actually this, It's all this stuff as well. And I now have this other sense of safety, and I know how to make myself feel safe. And I know what's true about myself and my life and my coping skills now. So, okay, I can see that. Maybe that thought's still there right now, but I'm good. It changes the approach completely. But we have to have our clients understand it specifically for them on that very deep level. Working with ROCD is a really exciting one, because you really can change someone's life because of the consuming nature of OCD in any form, any subtype. When you alleviate that pressure, that weight from your client, they are able to live in such a free, light, such an easeful way that they've probably never had access to. And particularly when you're helping someone's relationship, it changes their life. It really, really does. But working with OCD in general does, just because of the consuming nature of it. So I for that reason, I love working with it, but I will also say it can be difficult. Of course. It takes a little bit longer. It does. I know that whenever I'm going into some sessions with someone for OCD, that it's probably going to take a little bit longer. I'm probably going to expand the time frame that we work together for. It's still not every week for years and years and years, but it's a bit longer than average sessions that we do. But that's okay. And I think things like this that are as consuming as this need a little bit more time. They really do. And you need to work to create that really safe space with your client. You need to have them feel really comfortable sharing these things, because a lot of the time there is a lot of shame that is associated by the client to the OCD, because a lot of the thoughts can feel really shameful. And I know that from personal experience. Sometimes you can think things when you are in an OCD spiral and you feel like the worst human alive. You feel like, how can I possibly be a good person and have these thoughts? it really makes you doubt who you are at your core. So you have to create a really safe space with your client for them to be able to feel comfortable sharing those things, because that's not an easy thing for them to do. But if you are listening to this and you have OCD or ROCD or any subtype of it, I just want you to know you are so not alone. You are not crazy. You are not anything other than the beautiful human being that you are. You're just struggling with this thing. And there is so much change. There is so much light at the end of the tunnel. Please reach out. Whether it's you reach out to me or you reach out to someone that you feel comfortable with, or a modality that you feel like, I've always thought about this. I've always thought maybe this could help. I just want to give it a go. I always think there is a modality out there for everyone that is going to work. You just have to try a few and you just have to keep going. Hopefully it's hypnotherapy. Maybe it's something else. Whatever it is for you, just don't give up, because I know there is so much light at the end of the tunnel, and you can get to a place where you feel really alleviated from this. I'm not 100% sure if OCD ever completely goes, but I do think it gets to a place where you are so alleviated from it that you are not dealing with it on a daily basis. It's not distressing you. That's where I believe you can get to a place where it is not distressing you. You know what it is, you know how to deal with it, you see it, you hear it, and you're good. That's where we want you to get. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm super, super passionate about it. If you have any questions or you just want to reach out, please always do. And if you are wanting to join the live training on the 29th and 30th of August, please come along. I would love to see you there. It's really fun. But if you have any questions, just hit me up, let me know. And otherwise, you'll be hearing from me next week. All right. Bye.